Welcome to the Sales Influence Podcast, where we talk about finding the why in how people buy. I'm your host, Victor Antonio. Thank you again for joining me today. Today, I have an interesting topic. We're going to go deep. We're going to talk about emotions, yes. So we're going to talk about a little bit about emotions, because, you often hear the phrase, people decide logically, but really make a judgment call on an emotional level. And sometimes I think when we're having conversations with clients, we stick to the logical side, what makes sense, what is rational. And sometimes I know that unless you tap into that emotional part of why they should buy, they won't buy. They simply won't buy. And so what I want to do today is talk about what I'm going to call emotional connection questions. Yes, that's the topic. Emotional connection questions. And that is, how do we connect with somebody when we're having a discussion with them? How do we connect with them? Again, sometimes we talk about the product, we'll talk about our service, but really, how do you connect with somebody? Now, what I love about this podcast, what we're going to talk about today, is that you can also use it in your personal life. Yes, because when we can connect with somebody on an emotional level, we understand them better. Remember, I always talk about empathy, the ability to really feel somebody else's pain. Because when you can feel somebody else's pain, especially in business, you can sell to them more effectively, and the customer can sense that you get it. You can feel it. You feel where they're coming from. So let's talk about questions, right? Emotional connection questions. Now, let's say we're having a logical conversation, right? And the conversation can be anything about, I'm just going to buy some new software. I'm thinking of buying some new hardware, whatever it may be. And then the customer is going to say something like, well, we're thinking about, maybe changing over to another vendor. And then you can use a transition question like this. Well, tell me more about that. Why do you want to switch over to another vendor? Or maybe they want to switch over to another product. Well, tell me more about that. Why is it that you want to do that? Now, that's always a great transition question. Tell me more about that. Why is that? Write those down. And if you're driving, just listen, maybe write these down later. But what I want to do is open somebody up. I say, well, tell me more about that. And I have to quiet my brain. Now, this is an important part. Too often we're thinking about what to say next. But we got to learn to quiet our brain and just say, tell me more about that. Why is that? And then let the person go. Let them start talking. And as they're talking, here are some of the questions I want you to begin to ask. The first one I gave you, why is that? So again, the transition question is, tell me more about that. And then they're going to start telling you more about that. And then you're going to ask something like, well, why is that? In other words, they're going to say something like, I'm really afraid to buy this product or service. And you're going to say, well, why is that? And at this point, they're going to share some type of emotional story. Maybe they got burned in the past, right? Maybe they just simply had a bad experience. So why is that? Second emotional question. Well, how did that make you feel? When that happened or that didn't work out, how did that make you feel? Ooh, that's a good question. I like that one. Third emotional question. Well, how did you adjust? How did you make the adjustment? Now, remember, people love talking about what they've been through. They love talking about themselves, and that's all these questions are designed to do. Number 4, what was your initial reaction when that happened? Or what was your initial reaction when you found out? Again, a great emotional pulling question right there. Number 5, how did you push through mentally? Oh, that's a good one, because what you're saying is, how strong were you that you were able to push through it? How did you do it? How did you push through mentally? When you were in this situation and you couldn't get through, how did you push through mentally? And they're going to, again, give you their insight, what they went through. And again, what you're doing as you're asking these questions is you're going deep. It's almost like a therapy session. And so you got to keep it and focused on actual sales. But at the same time, what you're trying to do is get closer to the customer. In the past, I've said sometimes you have to slow down to sell faster. It sounds like a conundrum, but it isn't. When you slow down and you ask questions like this, you're connecting. And because you're connecting at an emotional level, they're going to trust you more. And because they trust you more, they may say yes that much faster. Now, how about this one? Number 6. How did that change you? How did that change you? Having gone through that, how did that change you? You know, when you bought this service and it didn't work out for you, and now you're dealing with vendors, how did that change you? You know, what do you think about now? How do you approach things? Now, can you see the connection here? You can use this on a personal level as well. What you're trying to do is get people to give you more information about where they're coming from. Number 7, how has that impacted your situation? Or how has that impacted the situation? In other words, they bought something or they made a decision or they're going to make a decision. Well, how will that impact your situation? Again, what you want to do is lock in with them. Number 8, what was going through your mind at the time? That's a good one too. Well, tell me what was going through your mind at the time. When you were making that decision, what was going through your mind? You know, what were you considering? What was going through your mind? I love this question because you're getting into their headspace about how they made a buying decision. For example, let's say that they made a buying decision in the past and it didn't work out. Then you're going to say, well, at the time, what was going through your head at the time? Why did you make the decision back then? And then what you're going to say is, well, that makes sense. Back then you didn't have all the information, so it makes sense that maybe, we didn't have the right product. We had it back then, but maybe we don't have the right product today, and that's okay. But again, what you're trying to do is get their decision-making process. Get locked in on that. Here's another one. What would you do differently? If you had to do it all over again, what would you do differently? And again, they're giving you information about their decision-making process. I love this question also. What would you do differently? What would you do differently? Number 10, last one. What did you have to do? Or what did you do? This is a great dramatic question because, when somebody says, we've gone through this, we're doing this, there's a merger, there's an acquisition, we're buying new products, we're changing over to a new system, what did you have to do to make it work? What did you do? And again, they're going to tell you their story. Let me go through the 10 questions again because they're very powerful. The transition question, again, you're having a logical discussion about whatever you're trying to sell. Then the customer is going to say something and you're going to say, well, tell me more about that because I want to understand more. That's the transition question, right? Tell me more about that. Or it's really a statement. Tell me more about that. Then question number 1, you can say, why is that? Number 2, well, how did that make you feel? Number 3, how did you adjust? Number 4, what was your initial reaction? Number 5, how did you push through mentally? Number 6, how did that change you? Number 7, how has that impacted the situation? Or how has that impacted your situation? Number 8, what was going through your head at the time? Number 9, what would you do differently? Number 10, what did you do? Or what did you have to do? Now, again, when you're asking these questions, you're going to feel different in that conversation. You're letting them do 90% of the talking. You're just simply asking what I call these prompting emotional connection questions and getting them to talk and open up. What you're hoping for with these questions is that they're going to tell you something. They're going to give you a piece of insight that's going to help you sell more effectively. Okay, so keep these in mind. What I want you to do is write these questions out, practice them, and then maybe pick 1 or 2 questions every week and insert them into your sales conversation. And let me know how that works for you. I think you're going to feel a difference in the conversations you're having with your customer, and don't be surprised if they give you information that you never expected to get. Anyway, that's it for the Sales Influence Podcast. Don't forget to leave me some feedback on iTunes, Stitcher, or YouTube. You know the deal. Let me know what you think. I'd greatly appreciate it. Also, check out my online sales training platform, the Sales Mastery Academy. Over 25 courses, 300 videos, my 12 books, and I have a new book coming out. It is called Sales Ex Machina. And the book is about 280 pages. It's about how artificial intelligence is changing the world of selling. Ooh, it's a deep read. So if you're serious about increasing your sales ability, go to salesmasteryacademy.us. That's salesmasteryacademy.us. And lastly, I want to thank you for listening. This is Victor Antonio, always reminding you. Wait a minute. Let's wait for the drop. Here it comes. Wait for it. Selling ain't hard when you know how. Take care. Hi, I'm Victor Antonio. I'm an author, sales trainer, and keynote speaker. I'm often asked, what makes a great speaker? Is it someone who delivers real content that the audience can use? Is it someone who engages the audience so they're part of the learning experience? Or is it someone who can motivate an audience to push them beyond their comfort zone and discover new abilities? The answer is yes. But the most important thing to remember is that I'm not there to look good. I'm there to make my client look good. Simply put, it's never about me, and it's always about them.